probably already have, and I just missed it. Let me know in the chat. So here is a quick snippet from Candace Owens defending Andrew Tate that I want to just play real quick. Let me know if y'all can hear this.
Fast forward to today, and I see these allegations of him being a rapist, human sex trafficking, whatever in Romania. And my take on this is that I do not believe that Andrew Tate is a rapist. I don't. I think that is what people like to accuse men of when they're trying to take them down, right? Do I believe that Andrew Tate is exactly what he tells us that he is in his videos when he talks about women and he says that he thinks that women should be subservient to men, and that in his relationships, he says that he has tons of children, and that he says that in his relationships, he expects to be the more dominant one. I'm paraphrasing here, but Andrew Tate is not hiding exactly who Andrew Tate is, and always has been. And clearly he communicated exactly what it was and whatever it was that he does in Romania to my assistant, giving her the option. Maybe she wants to join. For all I know, maybe in Romania, which may be perhaps the reason he moved to Romania, whatever he was doing, being a modern Hugh Hefner, is legal. I'm taking a guess here. I don't know. But if you're a guy and you hold citizenship in America or in the United Kingdom and you decide to uproot to Romania, it's got to be because you can do a little more dodgy stuff in Romania. It's the Eastern.
I don't think I have to keep going. Now, and understand, this is because she's defending Andrew Tate because, like, she's connected to Andrew Tate. Like, they were connected beforehand. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how those circles work, but, the right-wing, the right-wing commentary community is a community in and of itself. So first, let me just say one thing. All pimps are rapists. All pimps are abusers. This is not like Hugh Hefner included. I think I mentioned before, I worked in anti-sex trafficking for 3 years. And while like I grew up in the era of Too Short and the Players Ball and Pimps Up, Hoes Down, and a lot of like glamorization of like black pimp culture that happened in the 90s and probably happens to an extent now, the fashion, the gaudiness, and that's still like a cool thing that is a product of that era. Please don't, lose track of the fact that all pimps are rapists and abusers. You cannot convince a woman to sell her body and then give you the money without some type of physical or emotional violence. You cannot do it. It is not possible. Okay? It's either the threat of physical violence, emotional manipulation and violence, or coercion. That's how it happens. That's why they hate OnlyFans. You know what I'm saying? And it's funny because like Andrew Tate ran a webcam business, and like as more details come out, like it's so clear this was a pimping, a prostitution ring. And I know this again, having worked in anti-prostitution before. Like he made all his girls get tattoos of his name or some symbol. Like that's a thing that pimps do to their girls. It's a part of manipulation. It's a part of dehumanizing the girls to make them more amenable to the type of treatment they get used to. It makes them less likely to leave because they feel marked by their pimps. And so like there is no actual consent there because they pursue vulnerable women in the first place. They pursue women who are financially and socially isolated. Think about it how we think about like boys that fall into the manosphere, right? These are people that are socially isolated and looking for opportunities to belong and feel value. And you get a guy like Andrew Tate or any typical lover boy pimp, has a really flashy lifestyle, generally attractive, used to talking like this, and they smother you with gifts and love, and then they break you. That's what happens. So I'm a sex worker. I'm not super into the conflation of prostitution with trafficking. People can be and do consensual sex work. Yes. So like, I'm not saying, I want to be clear. I'm not saying that sex work is prostitution because prostitution is a legal term. I don't like using that term in general. We call it sex work when we're talking about sex work that happens with women who have agency or are not alienated from the work that they are doing. We like to call that sex work. That's labor. That should be protected, supported, celebrated. Trafficking, pimping, whatever you want to call it, is exploitation. That's when a person, in this case, a man, figures out a way to exploit someone's body sexually. And also labor, there's also labor exploitation, etc. But we're just talking about, to keep it simple, we're talking about using, again, violence, coercion, and manipulation to convince a person to sell their body and then give you the money. And so I say all this to say that Candace Owens's stick here about, maybe they wanted to, it just doesn't hold up to reality. That's what they say. That's what's going to be his defense, that these girls wanted to do this, that they wanted to be a part of this community. They wanted to, and that's like in some realm true. We look at, like, you go back to the R. Kelly case, because it's a very similar situation. Once you've been like inundated into these cult-like situations, it feels like you're there willfully. The hardest thing about anti-sex trafficking was breaking the hold that pimps had on their victims. Like the stories I could tell of girls that were being rescued that literally thought their victims basically had that thought their pimps had supernatural powers. The Stockholm syndrome. But I don't know. I don't want to call it Stockholm syndrome because I don't know if that it perfectly fits. I'm just not as educated enough. So I won't call it that, but it's probably similar. But like literally the belief that their pimps could like appear out of nowhere, could control the weather, could control airplanes, could mind control people, that they had spies everywhere. Like there would be girls that we would be like, they would literally be in custody, like we'd be surrounding them with as much safety as possible, but mentally they would never feel safe because the process of breaking someone down like that, first it starts with a predisposition for exploitation, which is one of the reasons why I hate most conversations around like sex trafficking and exploitation that like start with, ooh, it's a white van, people are getting snatched off the street, which is true. Like I'm sure there are people that get snatched off the street. But the vast majority of girls and boys caught up in sex trafficking are not snatched, they're collected. They are wayward, they have broken home lives, they have high levels of destitution. And so they are prone to, and then there are people, pimps like Andrew Tate, will find those people that know that they're desperate and they need support and protection and offer them that with the hook of, I am now your pimp. So when you have people, a lot of, people who are victim of abuse in the home or abandonment or neglect in the home, that's the first that's the first brokenness of the situation, which is one of the reasons why capitalism and anti-capitalism, if you're really serious about protecting the children, you need to be serious about economic inequality and poverty, because that's where children become unprotected. So they find those people and then they break them again. And breaking them again is what allows you to get your name tattooed on them and allows you to say, you will do this work, you will sleep with this person, you will show your body against your will, or consensually, but you will give them the capital that you gain from that labor, you will give it all to me, and I will protect you. Iceberg Slim, the hood, I talked about it in the Black Manager video. Iceberg Slim, cold-hearted pimp. So I'm not bringing up his book to condone his behavior, but if you want to, this is one of those real useful anti-capitalist texts that are not in the oeuvre, that are not in the canon of leftist readings, because the way he breaks down exploitation and alienation, it's cold-blooded. It's cold-blooded. Anyway, there's no defense. There's nothing in my mind that can say Andrew Tate is not a rapist and abuser. And it's been like that from jump, because people knew about this. He said this to his fans. That is how he recruited people. That is how he recruited people to his stuff. He's basically telling them how you can be a pimp. How the lover boy method, like that's on his website, assigned to the video, but it was everywhere. And it goes to show, going back to a point that I think was frustratingly glossed over in the response from Kidology, is that Andrew Tate did not get big. He did not get popular on social media by being a self-help guy. Young men did not connect to Andrew Tate because of his self-help message. They connected to him because of how he presented this patriarchal, chauvinistic, misogynistic image. And if Andrew Tate was purely self-help, we would never have known who he was at this scale. And so, like, whenever we get into these discourses about, like, you know, the left helping men more, we are going to be at a disadvantage if we don't use patriarchy like them, which we are not, which we should not. And it's the same with Peterson, same with Kevin Samuels. This point still stands. Y'all saw the videos. Let me just pull it up real quick. Go watch I'll splice it here. You go watch the Black Madison video. You see what Kevin Samuels looked like before he started getting really misogynistic, which is what gained him an audience. He looked ridiculous. He was awful as a content creator, presence, whatever. And so, like, when people don't take that into account, it frustrates me. Like, this is not saying that there are not things that can change and be better about engagement with young men, but just this nonsense of looking at the Andrew Tates or the Jordan Petersons or the Kevin Samuels and any other people lower on the list and saying that they appeal to boys because they reaffirm boys and they reaffirm manhood is like, no. Again, I bring up Kevin Wilson. Kevin Wilson, for all intents and purposes, everything I understand about Kevin Wilson is that he is a conservative man. I don't know if he's a Republican. I don't know his stances on LGBTQ issues, but I know that he is very invested in traditional classical images of masculinity. He is very invested in that. He is a big Black man with a beard. He does karate. He calls men warriors. He does all the things, but he doesn't talk down about women. He doesn't blame women. He doesn't antagonize Black women. And in the chat, who's that? Who's Kevin Wilson? Y'all don't know. And that's frustrating. Not because he should be a big figure on the left, right? Like, I'm not trying to pull Kevin Wilson into our ecosystem because I don't know his politics, and I'm not trying to, like, water down what he's doing by forcing a different political engagement into it. Oh, shit, Jason Wilson. Damn, that's why y'all saying, who's that? Oh, fuck. This is Jason Wilson. And this really proves my point. Jason Wilson is what any like you don't want to get down with all the leftist stuff. You don't want to talk to me about, you know, capital and anti-capitalism and gender abolition and whatever. We don't want to get into all that. I'm not gonna force everybody to get into all that, right? But if you're really out here as a young man, Black or white, but definitely Black, looking for Black images of Black men to inspire you and make you think better of yourself and guide you out of certain behaviors, certain weaknesses, all this good stuff, I introduce you to Kevin Wilson. Fuck. I introduce you to Jason Wilson. Now, some of you don't know who this is. And you don't know who this is because Jason Wilson is not optimized for the algorithm. He is not algorithmically optimized because he is a Black man who is civil, who is gentle, who is soft-spoken, and who is not misogynistic. He's not. He has all the markers: traditional family, believes in traditional masculinity, married with kids, all that stuff. Does karate, whoop anybody ass in the streets. Everything you need except the misogyny. Everything you need except the misogyny. But he is not ever going to get the type of presence that Kevin Samuels got, because the reality that people don't want to engage with is that what makes this medium work and grow you is the algorithm's optimization of misogyny and hatred of women, and especially Black women. That is the reality. And I defy you, anybody that's gonna follow up, go look at his stuff. It's not leftist stuff. It's not soft boy woo stuff. It's none of that. It's some classically, it's strong uncle energy over there. But he's not gonna be famous. He's not gonna trend on TikTok. He's not gonna overtake the alpha male podcast circuit because he does not. The algorithm has no use for black men not talking crazy. They don't. They say he's not gonna get it because I'm out here telling white people his name is Kevin Wilson. Look, I'm sorry. That's even further proof that I'm a fan of the dude and I don't even know his name because he don't make me angry. He makes me feel good. You know what I'm saying? He inspires me, so I ain't even registered his name properly. And so, like, yeah, so bringing it back to Andrew Tate and just kind of this overall discourse around, I got all over the place. Just bring it back to Andrew Tate. Don't lie to me. Don't piss on my leg and call it rain and say that Andrew Tate loved young boys and men and inspired them with like positive role model mentorship energy. No, he was a pimp spreading the energy of pimps to young boys, and that attracted them because we live in a patriarchal society and we are groomed into that type of environment and energy from jump. And it takes a gargantuan amount of support, luck, and a whole lot of energy to dissuade young men out of that, which is why all this stuff about the left isn't doing enough. Y'all don't understand how much we're already doing. You know what I mean? It just is what it is. Moving on. The most dangerous part is Tate's audience believes he's being framed because he's a threat to establishment and their feminization of men. Again, I point to the fact that Jason Wilson will not give you feminization of men vibes. He just presents a good image. And like, that's what draws them in. And what's more feminine? Y'all gonna get me to be toxic about niggas I don't like on the stream. We're not gonna do that. We're not gonna do that. I'm gonna just say, Andrew Tate wasn't only pimping the victims in his brothel in Romania. Those were not his only victims of being pimped. I'll just say that. All right.